What guest am I? I've watched a couple of yours. I watched your one with Josh because
Oh, did you?
yeah, I actually trained Josh way back in the day when he was like 17 years old. Just a couple sessions because the first place I ever worked at was at Buxton Marina, and he's a Buxton lad. So yeah, I trained him for a couple sessions, and I remember he was trying to get massive, but he was eating too clean. He was like struggling to get all his food in, so I told him to eat some pizza. Um, that's probably where his gastric issues came from.
Yeah, yeah, that's probably why now he doesn't want to touch no dough or nothing like that.
He's
Oh,
a nice
mate.
lad, Josh. And then I watched the other one with that
Oh,
Blake fella. I don't know Blake, but yeah, that was a good one. That was interesting.
oh, cheers, man. I appreciate that. It's nice that you watched them, bro. I didn't even know you watched them, to be fair. All right, guys. So, welcome to Plates, Dates and Mates, episode 3. I've got Mr. Ross Morgan on today, and he has the business in St. Neots.
It's now Gym and Tonic Social Club, like Gym and Tonic Social Club. And I
Oh,
say
cool.
basically, I do small group personal training, and it's female only. And I just joke around that my like clients talk and drink too much. So like Gym and Tonic Social Club. But
Yeah,
yeah.
I like it. I like it. Yeah, but I remember, Ross, me and you went for that coffee when I was like, what was that, like 4 years ago? 3 years
Yeah,
ago?
no, yeah, it was probably like 4 or 5, yeah, 4 years ago, I reckon.
Wow. That's
Yeah, I
actually
remember when it was maybe I'd work with you in the future, or maybe I can just pass on something that would help you out.
and that definitely helped me out as well, especially when you told me to move my clients to monthly payments.
I remember someone telling me that, and it was some of the best advice I got because it's like if say you go to someone, you got to pay 12 weeks up front, and it costs like 300-400 quid, whatever it is. It's like a massive lump sum, isn't it? Whereas if and then like you get to the end of it, and then you're a PT, you're not a salesman, so you feel all like sheepish. You're like, hey, your block's coming to the end. Like, do you want to like give me three or four
Yeah,
hundred pound or whatever it is? And you're giving away sessions for free because you're like, oh, if you do it in a bulk, like I'll give you 2 extra sessions. So like you're trading your time, like you're giving away your time for nothing, and then or
literally.
you can just do it monthly, and then it becomes a bill. Like someone pays their phone bill, they pay their PT bill. Someone pays their Netflix bill, they pay their PT bill. I sell my thing as like a 10-12 week course, however long I want it to be. And it's like people show up more often because if it was pay as you go and they didn't fancy it, they'd be like, oh, why am I going to pay a tenner? I can't really be asked today. But if they paid up front, they're like, well, I've already paid, so I better show up. And it's like you're a better coach because you've got less mental energy being taken up by like worrying about your income because you've already sold someone onto it, and then you can just get to coaching, and then because that person's committed to a monthly thing, they've already paid for it, they'll just show up more often. So it's just like it's just positive on both ends, I think.
So how long have you been a PT in total?
It'll actually be a decade this year, so just shy of 10 years. It'll be 10 years in October.
What would be like, it can be any topic you want, but what would be like
Yeah.
the 3 things you would say to him so that he can get kick-started and he can like just have some basic level of success and just to be a half decent personal trainer? What would you say?
So I would say one, like don't stop educating yourself once you've done your level 3 and you got qualified, because it doesn't set you up well to be a good personal trainer. So I'd recommend some of the best advice I ever got. There's this fellow, James Conchi Mitchell, who doesn't really do much in the industry now, but he used to own a gym in Covent Garden. And he was a big transformation guy about 10 years ago. But his transformation thing wasn't about putting people through like grueling like workouts and horrible diets. It was like transforming people, but doing it, using flexible diet practices and actually helping them enjoy training. I just want to put that bit in there just because, when you say transformation, you probably hate it if that got back to him. But I remember there was this guy called Paul Moore, who's still in the industry as like a marketing guy. And I saw James and he goes, oh, how's your business going? I'd only been a PT for a few months and I've been to one of his courses. I literally was going to courses before I'd even finished my qualification. So I've been to one of his courses before I'd even finished my personal training qualification. I saw him a few months later at Body Power and he goes, oh, how's it going? I was like, oh, I'm a couple months in, like I'm struggling for clients. I'm thinking of joining this Paul Moore guy's marketing thing. And just for record, I've heard loads of people do really well on that. But he said that you don't need to get better at marketing. You need to get better at personal training. Join Lift the Bar. It's a mentorship program and it will like educate you on how to provide a better service. And like you do that, you'll be all right. And so I did that. I stayed with Lift the Bar for about 4 years, and I just they do live events and they do like webinars, and they have like a whole website just filled with education, and whatever topic it is, they've normally got it pretty well covered. So They do a awards night like every year, and I actually won the award for dedication to education in a group where people are literally signed up to educate themselves. It's like I'm all or nothing. So first 3, 4, 5 years of my personal training journey, I was just absorbing information. I'll go to an event, a conference, a seminar, a workshop or something every other weekend. So I'd say like one, don't stop educating yourself. And if you don't really know where to go, I'd recommend Lift the Bar. I think it's like 40 quid a month and it's like so worth it. I'm actually not with them anymore because I feel like I wouldn't use it as much, but I'll always shout them out because I think they were so beneficial to me as a personal trainer. And I'm not an affiliate. That's just like a genuine, I think they're really good. The second thing is, as much as I say educate yourself, I would say just get out there and coach people as well. Because it's like, one, like always have that awareness that you have more to learn and don't be so arrogant and free thinking you know it all. But at the same time, you probably know more than the person who wants to get results. So if you can use what you know to help them, just get out there and help them, because you'll learn so much from experience as well. Because there's like, I remember I got to a point where I had gone to so many conferences and workshops and all this sort of stuff. And I went to one conference and there was like 6 people talking. It was like Brad Schoenfield, Alan Aragon, Brett Contreras, James Krieger, and 2 others who I forget about, but I'd gone to see all of them talk before. I'd like basically listened to all their stuff, read all their stuff, and I went and I was like, I haven't learned anything, but I'm not getting, and I've always got high standard for myself, and I'm like, I should be getting better results if I already know all this. So there's a lot to be said for getting the experience of how to coach it as well. So it's like, 1, get out and learn, but 2, like actually get out and coach as well. So it's like, 1, you're really competent and you know exactly what to do, but then you've got to get experience and know like how to coach it, and you'll start to see patterns emerge in different clients and mistakes they make, and like you'll know what mistake they're going to make before they make it. And you can fast track getting through that by educating yourself, but some of it you got to learn and see for yourself as well. So it's like, for example, like I just train general population clients. I don't train people who like love the gym and are going to step on stage or anything like that. Like if you're a fitness freak, then I just genuinely am not really that interested in helping you out. Like I don't care. Whereas if you're, say, someone who's a bit more normal, maybe you go to the gym as a casual, maybe you don't go at all, but you're not getting the results you want, probably because you're either following bad advice and it's like way too restrictive, and it's just setting you up for failure. You're the person that I like to help, because I want, my thing is like I always bang on to my clients about taking an imperfect approach, because like a lot of people are all or nothing, but like I want you to be like all or something. So like you're always taking action, you're always doing something. And I think basically it's like you can get momentum really quickly. So say you just start going out for a 20-minute walk, you're not tracking your steps, and then you get into that, and because you're doing that, you're out in nature, you're doing something positive, you start to feel better about yourself, and you're like, oh, actually, maybe I will start tracking my steps. And then you're like, oh, I do 8,000 a day now that I've done that walk. Why don't I just make my walk a bit longer or go out on another one? Then you're hitting a target, just because you started a healthy habit. And it's like, how can you, basically, if you do all or something instead of all or nothing and take imperfect action, if you never get beyond imperfect action, you'll still get better results than if you did nothing. But a lot of the time, it just spirals into better habits anyway.
Someone can't go from 0 to 100, even if they're general pop. But I've even found like I've got a tendency to train like younger lads as well who just want to like put on some muscle, like they want to get lean for a holiday or something like that, like pretty much like me sort of thing. And even the lads like that, like you could say like a bit fitness freaky, like even just start like, oh, did you attend the gym 3 days this week just for 3 simple full body workouts? Like you haven't got to do all this crazy intricacy stuff.
It's like a lot of lads are like, and maybe some girls as well, but I think it's more common with like gym lads that think they're about the gym. So because they think they're about the gym, they think their like approach has to be like this really special. Maybe it's like C-bum's the guy these days, so maybe they have to do like what C-bum does. But it's like they're actually not ready for that. And when they accept that they're not ready for that, they accept an imperfect approach, they can actually get better results and they can actually like follow through. So it's like someone will be like, oh yeah, I've got to do C-bum. I don't know what C-bum does, by the way. I'm just using this because he's like the relevant guy now. But like maybe he does like a push-pull leg split and he runs through that twice a week. So he's training 6 times a week and maybe he does like cardio in the morning. I don't know actually, by the way, but someone will see that and they'll be like, all right, I'm going to do that. But then they don't go into the gym more than 6 times a week anyway. They only go in 3 times. And then because they couldn't go in all those times, they just give up for that week anyway, when they could just follow a full body training split, get shredded, feel really good about themselves, get stronger, and not overcomplicate it. Like, as much as I train women, like, I'm a lad, I love being shredded. Like, I'm going to get shredded I'm going to Colombia in July, so I'm going to get shredded for that just because it feels good. Like, you just feel good. Like,
of course, I agree.
Yeah, your face leans up a little bit, your jawline starts appearing a bit better. Like, your shoulders are popping out. Like, I think it's, I never really talk about this because it's not relevant to my demographic, but if you're a lad who's goes to the gym, but you're not massive, one of the things that happens when you get shredded as well is you don't look that big in clothes, but when you start to lean up, it's like your muscle starts cutting. So instead of having that layer of fat between your shoulder and your tricep, it like really cuts in and like your shoulders start popping out. So it's like when you're a little bit soft, it's like, do you even lift? But then it's like you get cut and like your delts are popping out, like you're getting like you're getting like all the veins popping out in your arms and it looks sick. So it's like you don't even actually have to be muscular to almost end up looking like a mini little bodybuilder when you get shredded.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And it's like I can get like that and like I'll do an upper lower split now, but I'm really into my training at the moment. I've had a like on-off relationship with it just because I've got arthritis in my knee. I've had it since I was 26. I'm 33 now for context. My shoulders are a mess because I trained like a twat when I was in my 20s and it still hurts now. It's getting better, but like if there was a young lad who's doing work experience here, I'm just my mini gym, which is in the fitness forge, but I said he just goes around the gym and he's just messing about, and I go, you notice how that weight I was lifting on the chest press wasn't that heavy? And he goes, yeah. And I think he thought I was going to say something profound about controlling like the weight and then tensing your muscle against it. I was like, that's just because I injured my shoulder lifting like a twat when I was 20. And the quickest way to make yourself weak is just to injure yourself. So I'm like, you might want to like wiggle around and like lift some heavy weights, but mate, just control it. You'll be better off.
It's quite beneficial, especially to any younger lads listening that are just getting into the gym and they want to get big and want to get shredded. A mistake that I made, and what you just sort of said, I think a lot of blokes go into the gym and it's this sort of like anxious pursuit. So they're really, really fast. They really rush into it. And like you said, they'll buy into any plan of any sort of good-looking roidhead online that sort of tells them to do X, Y, or Z. Some lads might even jump into juice, but I won't get into that. But I think a good message for young lads to take away from this conversation now would be like, just chill the fuck out, follow a really simple routine and split, get stronger, hit your protein, sleep relatively well, and just be happy and just chill and just enjoy it.
Yeah. So it's boring to hear, man, but it's like just being patient and believing, like just trusting in the process is kind of boring. Like muscle gain when you're natural after you've been lifting a while is going to be really, really slow. But yeah, I heard this thing and it was like basically if you're smart, you'll learn from your own mistakes, and if you're a genius, you'll learn from others' mistakes. And it's like I was telling that young lad, I was like, oh, if only someone had have told me this when I was 15. And I was like, but I still wouldn't have fucking listened anyway.
Yeah,
but I probably did have someone in the gym telling me like, oh, mate, you need to lower that. And I was like, yeah, fuck off, mate. But like, yeah, so if you're listening to this now and you're like, oh, fuck off, Johnny and Ross, like, all right, but I'm going to laugh at you when you're at your shoulder and you're 30 years old and you still can't, and you're still floor pressing the 15s and haven't progressed on.
Yeah, the old floor press shoulder rehab. You don't even get a pump with that one, do you? Do it anyway. Yeah.
Obviously, I've got arthritis in my knee. I've got a dodgy shoulder. It's just like, just work hard at what you can work hard at and don't actually get too upset about it. So it's like, when I get shredded, like my chest is a little bit underdeveloped, but it's like, one thing I'll say is like, I don't think you should compare anyway, but I think an issue people make, a way you can compare is like, a lot of people can compare by looking up. So it's like they look at like the 1%, like the people who are genetically gifted, maybe they're taking some gear and they look phenomenal, like fair play to them. But like if you go to the gym and you've got like a relatively low body fat, you're like top 5, like you're probably like top 2% of physiques in the whole world.
Yeah.
And I think like people get down on themselves because they like look up too much. And it's like if you're going to the gym and you've got a relatively low body fat, like you're top 2% probably of physiques. And if you're going to the gym, putting on a bit of muscle, and you still got and you're still a bit soft, maybe you got a bit of a higher body fat just by virtue of going to the gym, like you're getting up there as well. So it's like, as much as I'm not a fan of compromise, if you are going to do it, you got to like look both ways.
It's so easy now, especially for younger lads. Like I remember I was younger, and a lot of people around me, like a lot of my mates, like they're all like on gear and that. And then I'll look on Instagram and I see they're all banging juice, and like all of like my favorite fitness guys, like, you know, like they're in the good lighting, the post workout pump, this and that, blah blah blah. And you do even if you don't mean to, as a younger person, you're definitely more insecure and you're prone to comparison, I believe, until you sort of mature a bit and learn how to control that. So yeah, man, I think what you said is brilliant. Like, just do what you can, improve, and be proud of it. And just know that this lifting game, to get a good physique, is very subjective. Like, your opinion of a good physique, my opinion, Bob's opinion of a good physique.
It's like some people like that like big blocky look, whereas like I prefer like a small waist with like that V taper. I like that. Basically men's physique before men's physique became small bodybuilders. Like I love that. Like that for me is the one. But like some people like now, I just want to like mass all over.
No, it's true. But like I think like most lads, because so many people take steroids now, and it's like if you want to take steroids, cool, whatever. But it's like if you're not taking steroids, I hate to break it to you, you are never going to look like that fucking freak, like that 8% body fat guy that's got tons of mass. Like you are, unless you're literally got the most supreme genetics ever, you are never, ever going to be like that. So
yeah, I would say like if I would definitely be like, if you're going to go down that route, at least get a couple years of training whilst like really dieting. Like if you're not tracking all your macros and tracking all your lifts, and you're not at least somewhat obsessive about it, don't start like taking illegal drugs. And if you are going to start doing it, I would probably recommend doing it at least the safest way, because there are people out there now that do them, and then they offer support, and they're like, all right, if you are going to do it, here's like probably the best, safest approach to take, get your bloods done and all that sort of stuff. So just like, if you are going to do it, one, have a couple of years of being obsessive without doing it. And then after that, like if you're still like, all right, I do want to be a bodybuilder, then if you are going to do it like the sensible route. But unless you're getting like paid or you're competing, I don't know. If you want to do it, they can do it. Like it's up to them. It's their health, it's their body, and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, I don't know. Just to get your top off at Ibiza, like I don't know, man. Seems a bit.
I agree. Yeah, but that's the thing, right? Every lad does it now. So it's like, if you want to look, if you are that anxious and you want to look best, then you do have to do a bit of gear. But to be honest, I don't think girls give a fuck about it anyway. Like, as long as you're a good lad with a bit of chat, you take care of yourself, and you're fucking just a half decent bloke. I don't think most birds give a fuck about the fucking cap of your delts anyway. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's like, whatever.
What do you think? What do you think is easier? If you haven't got any chat, do you think it's easier to acquire delts or chat?
Wait. What is it easier to get wham or get good chat? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. If you've got neither and you want to pull birds, I have no idea, by the way. But like, I don't think I've got either. That's why I've got this nice curly hair.
I don't know, like,
I've just got a set of abs and a nice set of cows.
Yeah, no, bro. Like, I don't know. I'd probably say, I think any lads can inject some test and get wham and look the part. You know what I mean? But to actually develop chat, it takes some balls of going up and having shit chat and then learning a bit. So I don't know.
I think as well, like, I think it's Kanye West who's, I heard say, like, he loves it when people are like the maximum version of themselves. And I think that carries over to dating. It's like, if you're going to try and like attract girls and you're not being your authentic self and you're just doing something to attract girls, okay, cool. You might pull them, you might have sex, but you're not going to have fulfilling. And I'm not someone who has relationships. I haven't had a relationship like serious one in 5 years, but within that time, I've had a lot of like fulfilling relationships. I've traveled a lot, so I've just had like quite a lot of flings in that. But it's like, if you're being the maximum version of yourself, you're gonna attract girls that align with who you are, and you're gonna have much more fulfilling relationships. It's just gonna feel a lot more wholesome, and you're gonna get all the laddie stuff that goes along with it, because you're gonna get some cool stories, sex stories, all that sort of stuff. But like, it's not gonna, I don't know, man. I don't know about you, but it's like, if you go out with too many girls where you're just going out with them because you like how they look, like it just gets a bit empty after a while. Like,
100%.
yeah, it's just not staying.
I'd agree.
So yeah.
Like, even if it's like a casual thing, if it is that regard, it's like, it just I agree, it gets a bit empty and it's a bit, I don't even like you. But I don't actually like you. I just like you.
And it's, yeah.
You know,
it's like you can get caught up in that when you're younger and you are a lad, like you can get caught up in that, and at a time like it probably doesn't matter, and it's just like, but then after a little while, like it does get a bit empty. And also when you do put it like that, like I remember listening to this podcast with this girl who did I think she did like research into like transgender and people that have gone from one side to the other and had like testosterone replacement therapy. So there was basically this girl who was bisexual, and then she became like a transgender male. She was saying when she went through the testosterone replacement therapy, she basically said how like how when she was a female, when he was a, you know what I mean, when they were a female and they had like the female hormones, it's like they saw the person as a whole. And then when they became a transgender male with like all the testosterone pumped into them, they said how basically it almost became, they would see a woman who looked beautiful, and then it was like they had to talk to her to get to the like the beauty part. It was like there was something, and it always stuck with me, and it reminded me of like when you are a young lad and you're just out in the club and you don't really think about it much. It's not malicious or anything. It's just that you've got all that testosterone pumping around. I think you have to get a bit older and a bit wiser to like get to the point where you feel like you want more fulfilling relationships, and you get more fulfilling relationships when you're putting your most authentic, maximum version of yourself out there.
I would agree as well. Like even when I was single and I was like having fun and stuff, if I was just trying to graft a bird or get with a girl, like just because she looked decent, like even me, like even after I'd like have sex or whatever, like I'd feel like a bit of a slag.
It feels different when like after, because it's like that post-nut clarity. When you get that post-nut clarity, sometimes you're like, I actually didn't really like her as a person. And but when you do and you're there, just like you actually want to like cuddle her after, it's like it is so much nicer and fulfilling. You get all the laddie stuff that you also wanted as well. And it's just like a bit more. And like that's coming from someone that, as I said, I haven't even had a relationship in like proper relationship in 5 years. But you can still have fulfilling relationships, just even if they're like non-committal or short term.
Oh yeah, like 100%. Like even if you're a man or a woman, like it's all right, like being a lad and fucking some birds and call it what you want and that. But like if you are literally like sticking your dick inside of someone, like that is the most intimate form of anything that you can be with someone. So at least have some sort of chemistry or bond there to actually make the experience worth it. Because you can decorate it how you want, but if you're having that sort of like low vibrational, low level sex, you might not realize it when you're young, but just said, like it definitely makes you feel worse after.
I remember going through like depression and anxiety during the pandemic and learning about like the idea of like vibrations and how different people vibrate on different frequencies. And it's like, for people who aren't aware of it, it's like at the top, you've got like gratitude as like your highest frequency. And then at the bottom, you've got like, I don't know, negative traits like gossiping and moaning and like feeling hopeless and like all that sort of stuff. And it's like when you feel like you fit in with someone, like the way I learn it and the way it's made sense to me is like, it's because you're vibrating on the same frequency. So if like you've got gratitude up here and you've got like moaning about stuff like up there, I'm like probably about here maybe, but like it's just when you like connect with someone, it just feels right. You're like probably vibrating on the same frequency, but it's like when you end up going with someone who's like a lower vibration, you end up kind of like, it brings you down as well. And
Yeah,
then
100.
you don't feel as good. So it's like, if you're someone who maybe is like indulging in like casual sex and you don't really care about the people you're having it with, but then you're feeling a bit funky, maybe you're feeling a bit depressed, anxious, like you might want to reflect on the people that you're
Yeah.
bringing into your life, because it's not to say that a low vibration person is a bad person, or it's just that they are low vibration. They'll have a bunch of people who are on the same vibration. They get on like a house on fire, and then, but for you, maybe you're like someone who buzzes and you've got optimism and you've got hope and all this sort of stuff. And then you hang around with some people and then that leaves you. Maybe it's because they're like not vibrating on the same frequency. Like I'm not an expert on any of that, but it just, having read it, it just internally, like it makes sense to me when I feel it.
Anything that you're super interested in at the moment?
So I would say like one of my areas of expertise as a personal trainer is just getting normal people to stick things out. And then within that, this can help normal people who feel like their training can get a bit mundane. They lack consistency, they lack motivation. But I also think I've been doing this for like 10 years is like, and there's stuff that I've learned and mistakes that I've made. And it's like, if you're a young PT, you could learn from this as well. So it's like, there's some things like sometimes you can get so into writing like programs and hitting certain numbers and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, yeah, so just some things I've learned from training is, if you think about what joints and muscles are working, it's like you don't have to do the same exercises all over and over and over again. If you want to be a powerlifter and you want to step on stage as a bodybuilder, then yeah, you're going to have to be more rigid and be more obsessed and all that sort of stuff. But it's like, if you do a squat, you're bending your ankle, your knee and your hip against some weight. And if you get into the gym and you're like, oh, I'm not really feeling squats today. If you hop on the hack squat or you do some lunges or you do some Bulgarian split squats, you're still going to work the same joints and muscles. So one thing that I noticed and in my coaching was like, I thought that if I did the same thing with my clients all the time, they should get really good at it. Like that's a pretty solid theory. More practice makes perfect and all that. But when you train normal people, actually, if they get a lot of repetition all the time, I've noticed that they switch off and don't concentrate as much and actually get worse at stuff. So it took me a while to realize that actually variety for the sake of variety, when you're a normal person who's not obsessed with a gym, just for the sake of novelty, is actually pretty good. And as a trainer, it can be pretty interesting because you're like, okay, it looks like people are getting a bit bored with Bulgarian split squats. How could I mimic a similar thing? So if in a Bulgarian split squat, we've got our ankle, knee and hip joint working, but we've also got that like balance component. All right, let me get them to do deficit reverse lunges. And it's more or less the same, but now they're like, oh, different exercise and stuff like that. So, and I do that to myself when I'm in the gym. Like, I would say through my injuries, I kind of transitioned from like gym obsessed to like normal person who struggles with like sometimes just being a bit like, oh, I can't really be bothered. And you can just apply that to anything else. So maybe you've got bench on, but like bench has been niggling at your shoulders. Maybe you can go for a neutral grip floor press, or maybe you're just bored. Maybe you just want to hit some press ups. And it's like, when you think about the directions that you're pushing in or pulling in, and you think about the muscles and the joints that you're using, when you explain it, it's all basically just you're bending your knees and your hips against stuff. You're pushing and you're pulling in different directions. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm in the gym. The lat pull down's taken. I'll just go do some chin ups, or I'll do like a single arm cable pull down, or I can't be bothered to do that exercise today, so I'm just going to mix it up and do this one. And it's the same direction, the same muscles. So if I work hard at it, it will probably be all right. And it's like another thing I see, someone will have like a program like that. Yeah, my program says like 4x8, and they get onto their last set. And it's like they do their 4x8, and I'm like, you could have done 20 reps with that on that last set with that weight. And it's like, so I think one of the biggest things that either PTs and just general trainer people in the gym could take away from it is just be more flexible and be more fluid. Like, don't feel like you have to stick to something rigidly. Like exercise science isn't like so solid that people are there like, this is the scientifically best program. Like, we're just doing our best and we're being guided by evidence. And it's like the human body, it's like sometimes you might sleep better, sometimes you might be less stressed, and you might be able to get 20 reps out on a set that you can normally only do 12 on. So it's like, if your program says 4x12, don't just stop at 12 if you feel like you could do more. Like, knock out 20, and then next time, you know, you could probably up the weight and stuff like that. So I just think taking fluidity in everything, and even involved with your diet. So it's like, maybe sometimes you can track everything and hit numbers, but then just because maybe then you start a new job, and like, if you imagine like your plate's this big, right? And now you've got more on your plate, some stuff's going to fall off. And some of your stuff that might fall off while you're doing your new job is that you can't track macros anymore. You haven't got it in you, but maybe you could consciously pick up a salad and pick up a Diet Coke instead of like a regular Coke, and just little things like that. So just being like fluid and flexible in literally everything, I would say, is where I see a lot of people going wrong, like the all or something instead of all or nothing approach.
I love that, man. That's perfect, especially for people that are new and everything's like daunting and they don't understand.
Yeah, it is really daunting because there's all these different versions of exercises, but when you think about it, it's literally just bending your knees and your hips against weight in different ways, and it's like you're going to make progress as long as you're doing it semi-sensibly and working like decently hard. So as much as there is a place for specific goals, having specific approaches, most people who just want to look half decent when they got their kit off, feel better, feel more confident, like it doesn't have to be that. It doesn't have to be all that.
And that's what I mean. Like, they don't even have to lift weights. Like, say a client is feeling a bit tired or run down, or they haven't slept well, or they're dealing with stress at home, they've got something going on. It's like, no worries, man. Instead today, if you're feeling a bit stressed, don't worry about your pull session today. Why don't you take your dog out for a nice walk and just forget about the gym for 30 minutes? At least you got outside and at least you took a break.
One of the things that I came across when I was doing cognitive behavioral therapy, I got referred to it when I was struggling with anxiety and depression back in the pandemic, was the idea of like a positive and a vicious cycle. And basically it's all about how your like behaviors, your thoughts and your feelings kind of play into one another. So it's like when you're feeling good, you tend to think good things, and because you think good things, you tend to have more positive behaviors. And then because you tend to have more positive behaviors, it like carries into feeling better. And then because you feel better, and you go into a loop. But then it's like, so you can basically start accumulating all these good habits, and then it feels like you're unstoppable and you like keep getting better. And then maybe you're like, do you know what? I'm going to stay up late and watch Netflix. And then you sleep like shit. And then you wake up the next day and you're like, oh, I'm tired. Normally I would skip breakfast until midday, but I'm going to pop into Greg's. And then you go into Greg's and you have some food that doesn't really make you feel very good. Like, I'm all for flexible dieting and that, but nutritious food does make you feel better and you buzz a bit different. And I'm all about like a net positive effect. So it's like just accepting that for me to stick to a diet, yeah, I'm going to go have like a cookie and a bit of cake. And the effect of that is negative, but as long as the rest of my lifestyle is like net positive and I'm feeling decently good, you can sort of suck things up like that. But what can happen is basically you can get in, if you're unaware of like the positive and vicious cycles, you could be in a positive cycle and then it's like your momentum gets completely killed and you're like, oh, what happened? Well, what happened was you probably went out, got pissed, and then because you got pissed, you were hungover. And then because you were hungover, you were tired and you felt tired. So because you felt tired, you thought, oh, I can't be bothered to go to the gym. I can't bother to meal prep. And then before you know it, it takes you just get stuck, like not doing what you want to do, not getting towards where you want to get towards. But by being aware of like positive and vicious cycles, you can't really control how you feel. And the more so you can challenge how you can challenge how you think, but you can't, it's not as easy to actively change how you think, but you can definitely change how you behave. So say you catch yourself, you've lost your momentum, you've gone out, you got pissed, or you binge ate, or you stayed up late and you feel a bit tired, whatever it is that's knocked you off track, just be like, all right, what is one of the positive behaviors that I would do if I was feeling really good? And it might be that you just cook yourself a good, nutritious meal, or maybe you meal prep, or you maybe go to the gym, or maybe you just go out for a walk, whatever's like the easiest thing to do, go do it. And then you've kind of disrupted the vicious cycle. And now you're giving you a chance to spiral back up into a positive cycle. And when it comes to your thoughts, you can challenge your thoughts. So you could be like, I feel too tired, so I think I won't go to the gym today. But then what if you challenge that thought and you were like, but I could just go and I'll probably feel better once I start anyway, because I normally do feel better once I go. And then because you challenged your thought, you end up going to the gym, you did a positive behavior, you feel better because you went to the gym, and then before you know it, you're like spiraling back up into a positive cycle.
Yeah.
So I found that really beneficial as well, actually.
I think that's really, really beneficial to think in different ways as well. I think a lot of times even if you didn't set the conditions for a negative spiral, I think thoughts alone can even create the negative spiral. And then before you know it, you're doing bad habits or bad activities anyway. Do you know what I mean? What would be the one, I don't know, the 1, 2, or 3, talking in terms of like yourself, you said you suffered with mental health a bit during the pandemic. What would be the 1, 2, or 3 things that you would, knowing what you know now and that you come out the other side of that, what would be the few things that you would tell yourself on how to deal with that better?
Okay, so for context, like I had really bad depression and anxiety during the pandemic, and I probably haven't felt like that for probably like a good year coming up to now. But I would say one, this is just from my experience, obviously not a health practitioner, but journaling was fantastic for me. So I basically, my friend Nikki gave me this book, and it's called The Artist's Way. And I only ever read the first 2 chapters. Apparently it's quite common that people just read the first 2 chapters because they get so much from it that they don't really feel like they need to go back. But the 2 things from it was to write 3 pages of journaling every single day. And it's basically just whatever comes to your head. So if you're there and you think, I don't know what to write, you literally keep writing, I don't know what to write, I don't know what to write, until something comes into your head, and then you write like something different. And yeah, you do 3 A4 pages. And once you get going, it's like, for me, it was such a good thing for working through my issues, because it gave me so much self-awareness. Because it's like, I felt like I had so much going on in my head that it was almost hard to like pin the different parts down and make sense of it all. And then it was like, once I started journaling, it's like all the different things were coming out on the paper, and it was just making sense. And I was like, oh, I feel this way because of that, or like this thing's happening. Why do I feel bad about that? Oh, I feel bad about it because of this. And so once I became more self-aware, I could manage myself better. So I'll be like, oh, okay, this thing makes me feel bad. So how can I manage it better? I don't need to worry about it. I don't need to do it. I can avoid it, or whatever. Or maybe I just feel like I have to deal with it, or whatever it was. But just through having self-awareness, and journaling gave me so much. And it was like, I would say, like, it felt like I had so much weight in my head. And it's like, it's like I took all that weight and just put it on the paper, and it just made me feel so light. And then, I mean, this book's called The Artist's Way. It's supposed to be for artists and just who are stuck in a rut and want to get their creativity back. My friend got it for me because I said to her that basically I always felt like I was a creative person without like a creative outlet. So, like, I always used to play football, which is quite creative. You know, you're trying to make things happen on a pitch, and like I was always I never played at a high level, but like I was always trying to make runs and like score goals, and like always trying. So I was quite creative on the pitch. And then so anyway, she got me that book, but I got so much from it just from the journaling part of my mental health. And I don't do it anymore, but every now and then, if I feel like I'm getting a bit anxious or a bit depressed, I'll just sit down and I'll write 3 pages and see what comes out. So I would say journaling was massive. Another one was, everyone says you need to like open up and talk to people when you're going through stuff. And in a way, I kind of feel like it's true, but also one of the things I learned about myself is like, I'm an extrovert, which I knew that anyway. But what I didn't know was when you're an extrovert, you basically take your energy from other people. So if you're around other people and they're negative, then you take that energy and you start feeling really shitty. So it's like, it's like during the pandemic, I wouldn't see that many people anyway. And then the people I would see would be like pretty down anyway. They'd be like, oh yeah, blah, 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 like pandemic is shit. And then, so that was the energy I was getting from people. But yeah, so I'm open. I'll talk about anything. And so I would see people and I get into conversations and I start being open and talking to people about stuff. And then they're not qualified to talk about mental health, which for me, like, meant I was just listening to people who would say things that, like, I'm very thoughtful, and this is a me issue, but I'm very thoughtful and I'm very like self-aware and I'm like quite critical. So someone will be like, oh, have you thought about it this way? And I would just find it patronizing, because for me, like, of course I thought about that. That's so obvious. Like, or someone would be like, oh, oh, well, some people have it worse. And I'm like, well, you know, I'm like kind of compassionate, so it doesn't help me that other people feel worse. Like, and then it's like, and then it's like also like I feel worse when people give me negative energy, and then people would start telling me about their depression and their sadness and their things that they've gone through, which like sucks for them. But like, and they probably thought they were being helpful by being relatable, because like maybe a lot of people feel better when they get that relatability, but like it doesn't work for me. It would just bring me down. So like I've done what people said. I opened up, I talked about it, and I'm just sat there. I brought all my problems up. Now I've got your problems as well. I haven't got any actionable advice, and it's like I end up calling the doctors and saying like, look, I've got really bad depression. And my doctor was brilliant. He talked to me for about 20 minutes or something, and he said, I don't think you need any medication. I'm going to put you through for CBT. I got through on that pretty quickly, which, talking to other people, I was quite lucky to get, actually. I know other people haven't had as good service, which is unfortunate, but just being able to talk to someone who is trained, and it's like when I was talking to normal people, I felt like the dynamic was that they wanted to help me, but then the dynamic would shift to them wanting validation it was like they wanted validation that they had helped me. And like, I struggle with lying. So like, they would be like, they would say, they would know they're not helping me because I'm like too honest. Like, I'm nice, but like, they'll be like, oh, this isn't really helping you, is it? And I'll be like, no, I appreciate that you're trying. And I genuinely did appreciate they're trying, but they weren't helping me. And like, but you could feel the shift in the energy of like, I want to help you to, I need validation. I am helping you, so I don't feel bad about this. And so when I went for counseling, I didn't have that because they're a trained professional. So I didn't really feel like I had to worry about like how they felt. And then on top of that, it's like, I've got problems, and the counselor would be like, here are some logical solutions, which for me really helped. So it was like, I remember I got taught about the positive and vicious cycles. So it's like, hey, when you're in a vicious cycle, you can recognize it, you can do a positive behavior, it will break the cycle, and then you can challenge your thoughts, and then you can get yourself into a positive cycle again. And then one of the other ones was, she told me about how like there are going to be certain people or certain things that bring you down, and you just can't avoid them. So you've got to manage it. So she was like, I want you to create a joy list. So anything that brings you joy and happiness, I want you to write it down. And anytime it's unavoidable that something just brings you down a little bit, I just want you to look at your joy list and go do something off of it and pick yourself back up. And it was like, yeah, journaling, counseling, and then applying the things that I learned in counseling were brilliant. And I think probably not enough lads know that counseling doesn't have to be this, like, it could be soppy, talk about your feelings if that suits you. Hopefully like the counsellor, like the mental health practitioner, will be able to pick up on what they think is best for you and your personality. But it's like, it doesn't have to be. It can be like actionable, logical, like problem solving stuff. So it's like, and one thing I learned about myself is like, when you think of sensitivity, you think of like crying and like getting emotional, and it's like, actually it's just reacting to stuff. So I'm actually really sensitive, and I never thought I was, because I always related sensitivity with like being emotional and maybe crying and like all that sort of stuff. Actually, I'm really sensitive. I'm just sensitive in different ways. Like I'm very sensitive to people around me, but instead of like getting emotional or crying about it, like I just shut myself off and feel a bit lonely. Or like I retreat into myself, or like, I just react differently. So yeah, just journaling to learn about myself, counseling to not have to worry about someone else's feelings whilst talking about what I was going through, and counseling to get actionable content. And yeah, just joy lists and recognizing that positive and vicious cycle, I thought was brilliant. And I still use it. And also, I like joke that I'm going to positive cycle my way into a 6-pack, because it's like, you can take the positive vicious cycle stuff and it's for mental health, but actually it can affect your ability to stick to plans, because like, you'll know how many clients have you got, and it's like they're on the wagon, they're off the wagon, and like basically it's just positive and vicious cycles.
Yeah. I think that's brilliant, mate. You just gave some actual practical advice that people can listen to, rather than just the cookie cutter stuff that people usually say about mental health. So yeah, nice one, man. That's mental.
I've got a couple questions for you, actually. So
all right, go ahead.
Obviously, like, you're living out in Malta now, and I've not heard you talk about this on this podcast, really.
Okay.
Would you say it's fair? Yeah. So like, some people might find this interesting. I'll be interested to know, but it's like, when it came to like moving out there, did you like have a job lined up first, or did you just go out there and hope for the best? Because it's like, how did you get like the visa thing and like all that sort of stuff? And yeah.
Right, so this is actually mental, and it was the stupidest thing I could have done. So I'll try to cut a long story as short as I can. So me and my girlfriend, for anyone I don't know, my girlfriend's, I met her on holiday. She's not English. So me and her had a long distance relationship. To put a long story short, we wanted to be with each other. She got a job interview for a Czech bank that was in Malta. And we both looked at Malta and we were like, looks all right, it's sunny, it's English speaking, yeah, go ahead for the job thing. We was on holiday in Barcelona. I still lived in the UK at this point. This was like last summer, so this was quite a long, last summer. And then she opened her phone, she was like, oh shit, I've got the job. And I was like, oh fuck, did ya? So, I mean, yeah. So then she was like, I've got it. We're gonna go. And then for about 4 weeks, I was like, fuck, should I do it? And I thought, you know what? I've wanted to move away forever. I like this girl, and I'm not just gonna leave her because I'm gonna be a pussy because I'm too scared to move away. And I was like, I'm only 23. If it all goes terribly wrong, fuck it, I can just come home. Mum's not going nowhere, Dad's not going nowhere, St. Neots isn't going nowhere. Yeah. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. So anyway, I pretty much, mate, I got 3 job interviews lined up. But the thing was, I couldn't do the job interviews over the phone or over Zoom. I had to be there to do it. So I was like, you know what, fuck it. So I booked a flight. My missus sorted out a gaff. We both signed a thing. And I was like, I haven't got a job. I haven't even got the fucking visa to come here. And then I was just like, yeah, fuck it. So I took the flight. I come here. I did all the 3 interviews. They all went well. I picked the one that I thought was the best. And then I applied for the visa. I got the visa, thankfully. And then bang, I'm here now, 7 months later.
Nice, man. That's cool.
Yeah. It was the scariest, most uneasy, most anxious thing I've ever gone through, to be honest, because I literally ditched like everything I had to move in with this girl that I was pretty much in a honeymoon phase with, because I'd only see her when every.
Mate, I hope my ex isn't watching this, but I did the same. I moved out to Madrid. She got a job teaching English as a foreign language, and at the time, pre-Brexit, it was really easy to move over there, and we were in the honeymoon phase, and it didn't work out. She's a lovely girl and that, but you've lasted longer than I have, so it must be going all right.
How long did you last in Madrid then?
I lasted, I think it was 4 months.
Oh right. Yeah.
It just weren't for me. Like I liked, I was gonna say I liked Madrid, like. But no, just sometimes you don't know you're not compatible until you live with each other, do you? So she's a lovely girl, she's really beautiful, intelligent, all that sort of stuff. But it just didn't work out. But no, it was a great experience, and I started learning Spanish, and I never stopped. And now I speak Spanish conversationally. I go out to Latin America regularly. I've got loads of friends who don't even speak English, so you know, it's like you take a chance. You don't know what's going to happen, and it's like, you know how like some people think what's meant to be is meant to be. I just think, I'm not sure about that. Like, I think things just happen. And if you're a positive person, like something positive will come out of it, because you're always going to look for the positive.
And try and actually just go through the thing.
And me and you are lucky. It's like you say, you can always come back and your mum will be here and St. Neots will still be here. And it's like, I'm exactly the same. Like I've taken loads of risks. Like, I dropped everything to go out to Madrid, and you just know you can come back. And it's, so shout out mum, shout out dad, for, allowing me and Johnny to be irresponsible.
I tell you what, mate, I bet that Spanish comes in handy, doesn't it, when you're down in Colombia?
Oh, it does, mate. I've had some wicked times because of that. Like, if you're a young lad, learn Spanish. You have some phenomenal experiences if you get out to Latin America. It's phenomenal. Like, people are so lovely out there, and like the experience I've had and all the things I've done. Like, I've probably accumulated about a year out in Latin America now. I was in Argentina when they won the World Cup. Like, I've been to Colombia 3 times. Yeah, I was in Rosario, Messi's hometown. And like, yeah, the streets were just flooded with people, and yeah, it was mental. And they sing this song that goes "El que no salta es un inglés," which just means if you don't jump, you're English, because they fucking hate us out there. Yeah, they're mad about them Falklands, man. So like, I'm just jumping up, going "El que no salta es un inglés."
Fuck the Brits, just off the night. I rate that.
Yeah, it was cool, man. So yeah, I feel like we went all over the place with that. So hopefully some people found it interesting and had some stuff going on in there, but that they can apply into themselves. But yeah, the main thing I want people to take from this is if they have found themselves being, I guess, a bit of a perfectionist, trying to stick to a plan that they can't stick to, that isn't the only way. And like, one thing I'm always really conscious of, and actually this can be like a takeaway from personal trainers, is like, I'm always very aware that when someone comes to me, I might be the first time they've ever tried to improve their health and fitness. So it's like, the last thing I want to do is put them off. So I don't want to give them this overly restrictive, like grueling stuff. Like, I want them to come in and be like, oh, exercise actually can be enjoyable. It can be a laugh, and you can crack some jokes while you do it. And I also want them to be like, okay, you can do a restrictive approach to dieting, but also you can take an imperfect approach and still get results. So like, yeah, I would say, just for some young PTs who are doing this, is like, I know you can be desperate to get results. So you've got the before and after, because sadly they are quite useful for building your business. Like, I would be a liar if I started saying before and afters are bad. Like, I put them up all the time because I know they attract people in. But you always got to have people's relationship with health and looking after themselves at the forefront of your mind whenever you coach people. So whenever I have someone, I'm like, all right, look, I know you're desperate for results and you want to take this approach, and that's cool. I'm going to support you through that. But if you can't stick to what this plan says, it's okay. We can back off. We can do something more flexible, and slower results is okay. So I think that would be a good one for like people who are listening to this that aren't personal trainers to take away for themselves, but also for PTs when they work with other people, probably, especially if they're new to the industry.
Mate, brilliant. Perfect. Mate,
saw your dad the other day. He said he's been listening. He said he's really proud of you.
Oh, did he?
I love your dad. He's class. He cracks me up, man.
Yeah, he's fucking funny, mate, to be fair.
He's off his rocker, isn't he? If anyone doesn't know Johnny's dad, they are like chalk and cheese, because like, they have got similarities. They're both PTs. They're both like confident, outgoing people. But yeah, your dad's off his rocker. He's like, you're way more sensible, I'm sure.
Mate, Ross, thank you so much, mate. That was an amazing conversation. And yeah, thank you so much, bro. We had a lovely time.
Well, it's a pleasure, mate. Hopefully I'll chat to you again soon.